Area residents got one more chance to interact with congressional candidates. More from last night's forum held in Jasper. Plus, this year's Heartland Half Marathon was a huge fundraising success. And Becky Beckman continues our ongoing candidate series tonight on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. We begin this evening with tragedy as a Birdseye man lost his life last night after he was hit by a passing train. Just before 10:45 p.m., DuBois County Sheriff's deputies were called to an area just west of the intersection of 1st Street and State Road 145 in Birdseye on the reported accident. Deputies say 44-year-old Dwight Daniel Ellis was just south of the Whistle Stop Tavern when he was hit by the train. Ellis was found after the train crew contacted authorities to notify them of the incident. First responders immediately began trying to revive Ellis, but they could not. Ellis was taken by ambulance to Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead by an emergency room doctor. Sheriff's deputies believe alcohol played a role in Ellis's death. They say this investigation is still ongoing. Birdseye first responders, Memorial Hospital EMS, Indiana State Police, and Norfolk Southern Railroad Police also assisted. We now know more about how an inmate at the DuBois County Community Corrections Center died last month. The DuBois County Coroner's Office says 29-year-old Christopher Klee died from methadone toxicity. The original autopsy report stated that Klee died of natural causes, but that was prior to toxicology results coming back. Those just came back recently. Now, back on September 3rd, just before 4 a.m., DuBois County Sheriff's deputies and the Coroner's Office were called to the Corrections Center on a report of an unresponsive man. No foul play was ever suspected in this case. Last night marked one of the last chances for area residents to interact with candidates for the Indiana District 8 congressional seat. The Jasper Arts Center hosted the forum with all three candidates yesterday evening. Incumbent Larry Bouchon, Democratic challenger Tommy Spangler, and Libertarian candidate Andy Horning started off by answering questions from a panel. The panel consisted of 2 media members and a VUJC student. Each candidate spent 18 minutes on several topics from the Ebola virus outbreak to foreign policy to public education, both K-12 and higher education. That was followed by a round of questioning with forum moderator and VUJC Dean Dr. Alan Johnson. Each candidate had 90 seconds to answer a question that Johnson posed. The questions ranged from what we can do to help veterans to the federal government's role in areas such as gun control, health care, and student loan debt, among others. Questions were submitted by those in attendance and through the Jasper Congressional Forum's Facebook page. Now, all three candidates are feeling fairly confident about where they stand heading into next Tuesday's election. Bouchon says his message continues to garner good responses.
I think our polling data looks really good, and when we talk to people on the campaign trail, we have a lot of support. So I'm very pleased with the response I'm getting across the district.
Meanwhile, Spangler is also confident. He says though he started out at a disadvantage financially compared to his opponent, taking a personalized approach to campaigning was the right way to go.
I went out and I campaigned. I talked to people. I shook hands with people. I walked in parades. I attended fairs. And that's how you get to know. You get to know the people. You engage them. You get to talk to them. And so I'm very happy with my message. Very happy.
Finally, Horning says he's also had positive feedback to his message. However, he says a lot of people are afraid to vote for third-party candidates, which is something he has noticed throughout his campaign. Horning says the only way to change things in Washington, D.C. is to change how we vote.
I just wish people would set that aside and say if they like what I have to say, that's great. But even more importantly, if they don't like what they have, I'm really it. There's no difference between the Democrats and Republicans in actual policy, in the amount of debt that they add, the amount of spending, the wars that they're, no difference. If we want anything different, we have to vote different.
Last night's forum was sponsored by the City of Jasper and Vincennes University. Now tune into 18 News over the next several days as we explore issues that matter to you, and we'll give you each candidate's take on those issues. This year's third edition of the Heartland Half Marathon and 5K was a huge success. This morning, officials with DC Multisport presented the proceeds from this year's event. More than $23,000 in all was raised. Proceeds were split between the Philip R. Dawkins Cardiovascular Center and the Longy-Foos Cancer Center. Each received a check for a little over $11,800. Now, this year's event featured two new events. These were a team challenge and a kids fun run. Kevin Manley is the executive director for the Du Bois County Visitors Center. He says the new events hope to grow this year's marathon. He also says the increased support of sponsors should help the event to grow into the future.
We definitely had a lot of great sponsors. They support us. It's a great event. Our goal has always been to try to get to that 1,000 runner mark. And we're going to keep that in our sights and keep working for that, and hopefully we'll be able to achieve that next year.
860 people in all took part in this year's event. Of those, nearly 630 of them came from 9 different states. The annual Best in Indiana Fall Awards have now been announced, and Spencer County's Lake Rudolph Campground and RV Resort fared well this year. The resort placed in the top 3 in the awards ceremony under the Best Fall Camping Adventure category. Statewide winners this year were Sinister Double IPA from 18th Street Brewery in Gary as the best fall beer. The Best Fall Camping Adventure went to Brown County State Park, and the Best Haunted Attraction went to the Children's Museum of Indianapolis' Creepy Carnival Haunted House. The winners were selected through online voting. The voting was done on visitindianafall.com. In a news release from the Indiana Office of Tourism Development, Executive Director Mark Newman says this year's winners represent the best that the state has to offer. He says the winners and nominees are a point of pride for Indiana. Now, state officials say tourism is big business statewide. According to data from December of last year, the tourism and hospitality industry is the 6th largest in the state. It's directly responsible for nearly 140,000 jobs and generates more than $10 billion in revenue to businesses each year. Holiday World and Splash and Safari will once again be under the primetime TV spotlight. The park will be featured in this week's episode of All American Amusement Parks. The show airs on the Great American Country Channel. The new show is hosted by J.D. Scott, who is one of the Scott brothers who have been featured on various shows on HGTV. Scott originally visited Holiday World back in August with a family of park fans from Lexington, Kentucky. Now, the episode is set to air tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central Time. It will re-air at midnight on Friday and at 4:30 on Saturday afternoon. The Great American Country Channel is available on satellite and cable to more than 62 million American households. Holiday World is set to reopen on April 25th of next year with the premiere of Thunderbird, the nation's first launched wing coaster. For more information, go to holidayworld.com or call 1-877-463-2645. Finally this evening, state correction officials say an Indiana man who fatally stabbed and shot a fellow Purdue University student earlier this year has been found dead in his prison cell. The Indiana Department of Correction released a statement Wednesday saying 24-year-old Cody Cousins was pronounced dead from an apparent suicide about 30 minutes after he was found unresponsive yesterday evening at the Indiana State Prison. The department says Cousins suffered self-inflicted lacerations to his neck and arms. Investigators say Cousins entered a classroom filled with students on the West Lafayette campus back on January 21st and attacked 21-year-old Andrew Bolt. Bolt was from West Bend, Wisconsin. Cousins was sentenced last month to 65 years in prison after pleading guilty to murder. All right, coming up after the break, your local forecast, sports with Kurt Guxell, and Inform with Becky Beckman. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.